What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and today I think it's finally time to dive in and really explore all the reasons why the biggest entertainment empire in the world is currently falling apart. Consider this video one massive information dump about everything surrounding Disney. So by watching till the end, you'll become an expert on everything that is killing the House of Mouse. And good God, is it a lot. Like, I'm looking at everything in front of me and, just get comfortable cause this is a mess. Unless you live in a cave with no Wi-Fi access, you're probably aware that Disney has been catching L's on an almost daily basis. From race-swapping characters to pushing a more female-centric MCU, things have never looked worse for Mickey Mouse and his corporate overlords. One of the biggest issues that keeps killing franchises is what we call the old bait and switch. This is when a movie or show advertises itself as one thing but ends up becoming something else. A good example of something outside of Disney would be Netflix's Masters of the Universe, which reeled in the fanbase by advertising itself as being about He-Man and Skeletor. But the show pulled that switch and the actual hero was Teela and He-Man was sidelined in his own franchise. And big surprise, but that show was catastrophic for both the brand and Netflix. Unfortunately, this tactic has been used so many times by Disney in the past, it's honestly amazing how they keep doing it regardless of the disastrous consequences. Shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi were clowned on for being a massive disappointment, and that show did what Masters of the Universe did. It pulled in fans by advertising itself as an Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader show, but then switched the lead role to Reva instead, and no one liked that. And it's not cause Reva is black or a woman, but that the show isn't called Reva, it's called Obi-Wan Kenobi. The MCU has also been riddled with this brain rot as well, and it's led to the worst era of Marvel movies in a while, with Phase 4 being renamed by many as Phase 4, and for good reason. Shows like Loki pulled in fans on the promise of seeing the Asgardian trickster, but the show quickly sidelined Loki for his female variant, who was smarter, stronger, and better than him in every way because modern politics. Hawkeye lured in fans by promising a show with one of the original Avengers, only to sideline him as well in favor of Kate Bishop, who's just a worse version of Hawkeye. Doctor Strange promised a multiverse of madness, but the only multiverse they visited was a universe where traffic lights meant the opposite of what we're used to. And Strange was sidelined in his own movie for America Chavez, another female character who comes from a universe where women can have children with each other because, well, you know why, you're not stupid. Thor Love and Thunder sidelined Thor the same way Loki did in favor of Mighty Thor, and everyone hated that movie. Even Chris Hemsworth said if he were to come back as Thor, it'd have to be dramatically different due to how poorly received that movie was. Even in Shang-Chi, which was his debut movie, he was sidelined in favor of female characters. And Eternals made the main character of that franchise, which is Icarus, into its main villain, because he's white and a straight man, and we can't have that today, can we?
I'm going to die!
And while we're talking about bait, I want to quickly go over the fiasco surrounding the upcoming Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali. According to sources like Bounding Into Comics and YouTuber Overlord DVD, who regularly leaks things from Disney, Blade's original script was so laughably bad, it caused the original director to leave the project. According to these rumors, in this original version, Blade's daughter Alex would co-star and would be fully human. Apparently her mother's background would somehow cause Blade's daughter to not be half vampire. Don't ask me, but it gets hilariously worse from here. Blade's daughter would be like Oracle to Batman, feeding him information from a safe distance. Apparently, Blade's daughter would end up getting bitten, and this would awaken her latent vampire powers. This would result in a climax where Blade must fight his own daughter, and during this, she ends up biting Blade, and it makes her into what is described as an unlimited godlike being. The movie would also feature werewolves, and this would actually be who bites Blade's daughter. If any of this sounds familiar, that's because it's literally a ripoff of Underworld starring Kate Beckinsale. Recently, it was also reported via an insider named Jeff Schneider that Mahershala Ali is dissatisfied with the script and wants it completely revamped. No pun intended. Apparently, this new script centers more on Blade as the main character, but only has 2 action sequences in the entire movie, and they're described as lackluster. But the original plan, as of right now anyway, is for Blade to only exist in this first movie as a mentor to pass the torch immediately to his daughter Alex. It's just all a goddamn nightmare, but let me know what you think as always. And the only movie that didn't crap all over its legacy was Spider-Man No Way Home, and surprise, it made more money than several of these other disasters combined. So it's safe to say that when it comes to Marvel, Disney, like Amber Heard, is crapping the bed and then rolling in the sheets. This brain rot has gotten so deep that even shows like The Mandalorian are experiencing lower viewership levels than that of Book of Boba Fett, which was a show more disappointing than my own son. I guess bringing Grogu back in a different show and then pretending like everyone watched that was probably a terrible idea, but what do I know? And Mando Season 3 so far has had the lead character being saved twice for being incompetent by Bo-Katan. And its latest episode lured in fans with a sick action scene only to bait and switch into a 40-minute slog where we follow 2 people I don't care about that look nothing like Mando or Grogu. Even shows like Willow also bait and switch their lead character in favor of a lesbian couple. And big surprise, no one watched that show and it's been cancelled after only 1 season.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no, how terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
It's clear as day that these intersectional woke tactics are not working anymore, and Disney is bleeding money in some deluded crusade to feminize their entire company. What's funny is that a few months ago, Bob Iger, who's yet again the CEO of Disney after they fired the last CEO when he was at an Elton John concert, no, I'm not kidding, that actually happened, confirmed that Disney will be doubling down on diversity and inclusion regardless of the loss of revenue. And then a couple of months later, Bob Iger would yet again make headlines by announcing that Disney would be cutting over 7,000 jobs due to how poorly Disney Plus and the company at large is doing. These cuts are a part of a plan to reduce the spending of the company by $5.5 billion. Iger would go on to say, quote, "While this is necessary to address the challenges we're facing today, I do not make this decision lightly. I have enormous respect and appreciation for the talent and dedication of our employees worldwide, and I'm mindful of the personal impact of these changes," end quote. Mind you, these cuts will reduce Disney's overall workforce by about 4%, and the company plans to restructure its business into 3 core branches. Those being Disney Entertainment, ESPN, and Disney Parks. And speaking of those parks, they're also bleeding money because Disney has kept its capacity for their parks at pandemic levels, meaning fewer customers are allowed in than usual. The other major issue is that these theme parks are just too damn expensive for most people to afford, leading to less revenue and empty venues. A major cause of this is what some sites call the loss of magic for the Disney brand as a whole, with their woke political angles towards everything pushing fans away and alienating any new ones. And I know everything I've said so far is bad news, but guess what? It gets even worse. It turns out not only has Disney laid off thousands while refusing to lower their theme park prices, they're also reducing how much content they're making for Disney Plus going forward too. And the shows that are in the pipeline already have all been delayed to allow more time for quality control, which hopefully works. Despite all of this, Disney Plus has lost over 2.4 million subscribers in the last year. And while you may think this is because of woke politics, which yes it is to an extent, it's actually because of cricket of all things. Turns out Disney had the exclusive rights to India's premier cricket league for a long time, and this obviously brought in millions of fans. But Disney wasn't able to secure the rights in the future, and they were forced to remove the Cricket Premier League from the service. So I guess the reason why Disney Plus is on fire right now is because of woke identity politics and cricket. Well, the more you know. Iger was quoted saying that Disney plans to focus heavily on their strongest brands, from Marvel, Star Wars, and things like Avatar in the future. Which is all well and good, but it doesn't help that their two biggest franchises are being dragged through the mud almost constantly. Marvel's Phase 5 recently kicked off with Quantumania, and currently it's the worst performing movie in the Ant-Man trilogy, if you can believe that. As of this video, Quantumania has grossed 447 million worldwide. The original Ant-Man made 518 million and its sequel did 623 million. And this movie has Kang as its main villain, and even that couldn't persuade enough people to watch it, which is not a good thing. Then you have movies like The Marvels, which is also in trouble with that movie having more reshoots again and being delayed to this fall. And apparently Brie Larson, who unfortunately plays Captain Marvel, is pissed that the movie isn't called Captain Marvel 2. According to Fandom Wire, Larson is unhappy with the sequel and the VFX are apparently not good at all. There's also a rumor that Larson and Teyonah Parris, who plays Monica Rambeau, they have been arguing on set and the film is riddled with post-production issues. And I'll be real with you guys, I am not happy with how poorly the MCU has been lately. I miss the days when we were all excited for the latest entry and seeing our favorite superheroes on screen. All of these new movies, they just make me yearn for an experience like Infinity War again, which to this day was still one of the best movie moments I've ever had in a theater. And it seems that Disney, as well as the higher-ups at Marvel, are doubling down on identity politics as well. It's been largely rumored a few months back that Disney will be changing major X-Men characters to other ethnicities or genders to score woke points. There was even a rumor that whenever an X-Men movie happens, it won't even be called X-Men because the men part of the title is offensive now. So it'll be something stupid like X-People or something, which is so bad, I really hope they don't do this. But there's no way this could be happening, right? Well, it turns out they are kind of already doing this. Recently, it was reported that in the new issue of Bishop War College, that Bishop gets transported to an alternate universe by the Fenris twins. And in this new universe, both Jean Grey and Cyclops are black now. Of course, people can argue that this doesn't replace the original Cyclops or Jean, which is true, but Marvel has in the past changed things about characters in the comics to reflect what happens in the movies. A good example of this is when Marvel briefly made Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver into Inhumans instead of mutants, because at the time Disney didn't own the film rights to X-Men. So in order to make those characters fit into a group that they owned, they became Inhumans and the comics were forced to reflect that. Likely things like a Black Cyclops or Jean Grey are being teased because Marvel and Disney are planning to race swap these characters for diversity's sake. And I said in my previous video that Jean Grey will absolutely be race swapped because she's a red-headed white woman. And that particular subsection of representation seems ripe for cultural transforming these days for some weird reason. And for a company that champions diversity, it's incredibly ironic since in 2019, 10 female employees have accused Disney of pay gap discrimination, with 6 of these employees also being women of color. One of these employees is Nancy Dolan, who's been working for 18 years at the company as a senior manager of creative music marketing. According to Nancy's employee reviews, she's been operating far and above her role while showing the expertise and professionalism of someone multiple roles above hers currently. Her review said she is an unparalleled expert in her field, and her decisions alone led to the Beauty and the Beast remake having what was considered as the most substantial music marketing campaign that led that movie to global success. Regardless of this, 2 of her male colleagues who were in similar roles to hers were promoted and she wasn't. There's dozens of these examples, but the point I'm trying to make here is that Disney is pushing for diversity and using LGBTQ people as scapegoats while not actually helping them. Bob Iger will sit there saying how diversity is so important, but will also largely ignore people for promotion because they're women or people of color?
Well, first of all, our LGBTQ employees are very important to us, and we care deeply about them. That is a given. Secondly, this company has been telling stories for 100 years, and those stories have had a meaningful, positive impact on the world. And one of the reasons they've had a meaningful, positive impact is because one of the core values of our storytelling is inclusion and acceptance and tolerance. And we can't lose that. We just can't lose that. I think about Black Panther and the impact that had on the world, or a film like Coco. I mean, I could go on, and how we actually change the world for the good. It must continue. We also, when you tell stories, it's a delicate balance. You're talking to an audience, but it's also important to listen to an audience. It's important to have respect for the people that you're serving, that you're trying to reach, and not have disdain for it. That said, we're not going to make everybody happy all the time, and we're not going to try to. And we're certainly not going to lessen our core values in order to make everybody happy all the time. So it's complicated, and there's a balance, but at one point I said, we do what we believe is right, and then someone criticized me for saying, well, who are you to say that that's right? Well, when you're in a job like mine, or you are responsible for the storytelling that many of you are responsible for, you get paid to have a sense for what is right. Not everybody will agree with you. That's just not the way the world is these days. But it doesn't mean you should stop trying to do the right thing.
For a company that wants their MCU to be more diverse and female-led, it's ironic to say the least. And all of these changes are going to lead to a brutal future for not only Disney, Marvel, or Star Wars, but the entire industry as a whole. The last two Pixar films, Strange World and Lightyear, they both flopped at the box office, with Strange World in particular losing over $150 million. It was also a film that pushed woke identity politics into people's faces, and audiences rejected it completely. And the future doesn't look too bright either, with the next major Star Wars Disney Plus show being The Acolyte, which is being helmed by former Harvey Weinstein assistant Leslie Headland. And the production has apparently hired an intimacy coordinator, which is someone in charge of overseeing anything involving nudity or sex within a project. Which is weird, because this is Star Wars, but at this point, nothing really surprises me anymore. And whether this show will be any good, I can't really tell you. But it has all the makings of a future major flop for Disney, and if people are fatigued by Mandalorian, all I can say is good luck to The Acolyte. Honestly, the only bright spots right now are basically Guardians 3, which looks to be the final hurrah of the James Gunn era of Marvel, as well as games like Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac, which will likely be a banger, and the imminently releasing Jedi Survivor 2, which looks awesome as well. Besides these things, it's just not looking good for Disney or really any of the properties that they own. Star Wars has lost its pedigree for the most part, Marvel is having diminishing returns, and besides Avatar 2 making a boatload of money, that's really about it. And for a company that has brought us so many classics, it's unfortunate to see it fall to such dumps these days. The Little Mermaid is either going to flop or be a major success, but the controversy surrounding that can of worms is exhausting too. Peter Pan and Wendy looks dead on arrival also, and Ironheart's Disney Plus series is apparently the most expensive so far. Which is unfortunate because I don't know anyone that even likes that character. In the end, Disney is in dire straits. From losing Cricket of all things, or race swapping every character that's white, it seems the House of Mouse might need to downsize to maybe a shack in the coming future if things keep going the way they are. From bait and switching everything to giving characters like Miss Marvel a TV show before characters like Ghost Rider, I couldn't tell you what's going through the heads of the people in charge. All I know is that going woke is most certainly making Disney broke, and they have no one to blame but themselves. And that, my friends, is how wokeness is continuing to kill Disney, and it will likely not end anytime soon. But I'll keep you updated as always, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Truly there is no God here.